Trauma Therapist Podcast, episode 455. All right, guys, welcome to the Trauma Therapist Podcast. My name is Guy McPherson. My mission is to raise awareness of trauma and to support new trauma therapists just starting out on their trauma-informed journey. I do that through this podcast and my membership community, Trauma Therapist 2.0. If you're a therapist of any kind, interested in learning about trauma, and you're looking for support and inspiration, I invite you to check out Trauma Therapist 2.0 by going to traumatherapist2.com. That's Trauma Therapist, the number 2.com. All right, let's get started. Several years ago when I was in graduate school and just starting seeing clients, I was doing a lot of commuting, like an hour and a half each way to my site. I was always thinking about my clients. What am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. Why didn't I do that? Why I should have done that? And I always thought to myself, wouldn't it be awesome if I had a seasoned master trauma therapist sitting right there beside me in the passenger seat? Well, obviously that didn't happen. So I created the program, and it's Trauma Therapist 2.0. It's my online community specifically dedicated for new trauma workers. If that's you, if you're just starting out on this trauma-informed journey, you're passionate about this work, and you're looking to gain confidence, you're looking to share your journey, share your challenges, and share your wins, to get inspiration, also to help to inspire others, I want to invite you to check out Trauma Therapist 2.0 by going to traumatherapist2.com. That's traumatherapist, the number 2.com. All right, guys, welcome back to the Trauma Therapist Podcast. I am very excited and honored to have back Lisa Danylchuk. Lisa, welcome.
Thank you so much.
All right. So Lisa is an author, a licensed psychotherapist, and yoga teacher trainer specializing in bringing yoga into trauma treatment. And she first joined me back on episode 33 of the podcast. So like 370 zillion.
Back in the day.
Way back. Lisa is a graduate of UCLA and Harvard University, and she's the founder of the Center for Yoga and Trauma Recovery in Oakland, California, and creator of the Yoga for Trauma online training program. Lisa has authored 3 books, Embodied Healing, Using Yoga to Recover from Trauma and Extreme Stress, and How You Can Heal, a Strength-Based Guide to Trauma Recovery. And most recently, and what we're going to be talking about today, Yoga for Trauma Recovery, Theory, Philosophy, and Practice. You're a contributing editor for Best Practices for Yoga for Veterans, published by the Yoga Service Council. You're also on the board of directors and the UN Task Force for the International Society for the Study of Trauma and Dissociation. Not too shabby. And you were recently elected to serve as secretary for the organization. Busy much, girl?
Busy bee, yeah.
So anyway, welcome back.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. It's great to be here. And I love hearing your podcast as well. I've learned a lot listening, so thank you.
Appreciate that. So before we get started here, share with our listeners where you're from and where you're calling from.
So I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area. I was born and raised here, and now have an office in Oakland. I grew up across the bay, left for about 10 years, and then I've been back since 2007 now. Awesome.
So in preparation for this, I kind of went back and listened to our first episode just to get some grounding and footing. And what really struck me, Lisa, is this I don't know, for lack of a better word, just passion for the work and connecting on a kind of a human level, and that was kind of evidence in a lot of different things that we were talking about and the way you were expressing what your interest was. But for those the listeners who maybe haven't heard that, or maybe are being introduced to you for the first time, give us the kind of nutshell into how you got into this field.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it was one of those experiences where you keep just sort of following the thread or taking the next step. I was always interested in psychology and didn't want to go a super traditional route. So just kept sort of looking at academically courses that were interesting and had a lot of moments of like, what am I doing and where am I going? So for anyone else out there, and
yes, I'm raising my hand.
And I think we hit that in an ongoing way in life, right? It's not like you have it 100% figured out ever. But what happened for me is I was at UCLA and I was studying interpersonal communication studies, which was like a lot of psychology stuff, but a little more broad, which I liked. And while I was there, and I think this I shared in the last episode, my brother passed away really suddenly, really unexpectedly. And so I had this experience of studying psychology. I was also teaching fitness classes, teaching yoga. And I had this like very real human experience for myself of kind of, oh shit. You know, like, what do I do with this? So I took everything I had learned, but I also just let a lot of things fall away. And the things that stayed, well, the thing that stayed the most was yoga.
Mm.
And I didn't really get why at the time, but it was essential in just my own sort of coping and healing. And it was so interesting the way my body responded. Like I just was telling someone the other day, some of the like things that were happening just physically on a physical level. So I was so curious about what is this thing that I'm going through. And I already knew what trauma was, or I knew what PTSD was, but it just felt like a whole other layer and another level. And so lots of conversations and trainings and, you know, feels like a whole lifetime later, it's like the intellectual part of me wanted to understand, right? After I went through and after yoga was so helpful for me. So that's kind of how I got here. I mean, there's tons of little tangents.
Sure. What do you mean when you say there were things were happening to you as a result of the yoga?
You know, one thing was just that I felt it was so necessary. Like there were so many things I'd always been really interested in a lot, right? Like, oh, I'm going to go to the environmental club and, oh, I'm going to, join these different groups and go outdoors and do all this stuff. But yoga was just it was a no-brainer. It was essential. And I think when I was in classes, I could connect and feel things in my body that maybe even just in seated meditation, I wouldn't necessarily feel. And I think the word that comes to mind more than anything is just so much relief there. Like just each time I go a little bit lighter. I mean, a lot of people say you never regret going to like work out or go to yoga. It always makes you feel better after, but it was just so true for me. And I think it helped in a time where, like I didn't understand what was going on completely. And I don't even know if it would have been helpful if someone sat down and just explained it to me. It was so helpful to just be in that movement and breath and experiential practice. Yeah, it was just relief. And I felt like a little lighter, even in the midst of it, even when I felt, if I already did, I guess, but permission to swear, I would go to a therapist or I have found a counselor I really liked and I couldn't even express. I'd just be like, I just feel totally fucked. Like, you could call that alexithymia if you want. I just call it complicated emotions. Like it's not like, oh, I am sad and I am mad. So yoga gave me a space to be with that without really, in a different way than talking or even reflecting. It was just, it felt like it helped me process and it helped me, all these other wonderful things, ground, center, release.
Yeah. So as you kind of suggested, between then and now, there's a kind of a whole world of space in a sense. What caused this or inspired the interest to write these books and to kind of trauma and yoga?
That I'm thinking back, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago now, I had this, like, I want to write. And I've learned about myself. Maybe you feel this way too, or other people listening feel this way. I kind of get ahead of what I want. And I think I should have already done it by now. Like I feel behind. Oh, I should be there already. And it's like, no. And I wish someone had whispered to me, like, give it 5 years, sister. give it 5 or 6 or around there. Give it some time, because I remember hiring like a writing coach and trying to write an outline, and it wasn't fully formed yet. And so I kind of think of my first book feels almost like a warm up to the most recent book. And then the middle one's a little bit different, but it feels like they both were like expressing something, but it hadn't come out yet. What I wanted to put into words and into that package that is a book hadn't fully come out yet. And I think, it takes conversations with other people like this. It takes teaching and learning and yoga practice and all kinds of different things for those ideas to form. So why a book? It was in me. Like, I want to write. I had these little magnets on my fridge. They're, those little word magnets. It said, write, love. And I think I still have them. They're like brown and like crusty and old. But I was like, it just felt it so deep. It was one of those things that I have to write. And so.
And why trauma though? Why this marriage of trauma and yoga for you?
Well, a little more background, right? I was raised by two therapists. My mom, who you've interviewed on here, is fabulous and amazing. I love her. Lynette Danylchuk, she's a trauma therapist, and she works with people with, she's retired now, but worked with people with dissociative identity disorder for many years, back when it was called multiple personality disorder even. So I grew up like meeting those people. I would go, if I was staying home from school sick, I would go to my parents' office and like draw and play with the stuffed animals in their extra room. And I met people with DID when I was like 5. So it really formed my understanding. And I asked what my parents were. I remember they said, "We'll tell you later." And I was like, "No, you'll tell me now." Like, whoa. I met her yesterday and she was Sally. Why was she Bruce today? I'm confused.
Wow.
Right? Like, tell me. So I got the kid explanations, at least and then I, went to conferences with my mom when I was in high school and things like that. So I knew about trauma, right? Like I got from a really young age, if you treat someone badly, it will hurt them. Like if you treat them badly verbally or neglect that, like I kind of understood how harmful these things were. So trauma was kind of in my lineage. And my dad too was a couples counselor, marriage and family therapist, and did a lot of work with couples and some individuals. So it was a familiar world to me already. And then I had this personal experience, right? So as I applied that, I was like, oh, this is trauma and that's trauma. And trauma is just this human thing that we all go through in some capacity or another, even if it's, say, just vicarious, right? Like it's everywhere. And I don't know if I can tell you where the like passion to share that came from. I think it was just like, this makes so much sense. I want everyone to know this.
Yeah.
Why aren't we all taught these things growing up?
Right. When, as someone who is I would definitely consider myself a novice in terms of my yoga experience, but there's something so almost intimate about yoga practice, I think. You're there, you're alone oftentimes, you're sitting there, you're in your body, you're moving your body, you're getting in these poses. And I could imagine that could be at one time an invitation for a lot of people to begin their recovery, and also pretty daunting, an invitation. And for some, like, no way am I ready to do that.
Absolutely.
So at some point you can answer that, but let's use that as an entryway into your newest book and why you wrote this book.
Well, I can say a couple of things about that. One, people often ask me, do you do yoga with all your clients in private practice? I'm like, I have some people who are yoga teachers. I have some people where we do breath work. I have some people where we do postures. I have the yoga curious come to me because they know what I do, but they're not ready. And sometimes it's just this sort of background thing, like, oh yeah, that yoga stuff, right? So I think it's true that for some people, I mean, not everyone in the world has to do yoga. That's fine. But I think for some people, it's really daunting. I have a fun story maybe I can share later about a probation officer when I worked in the juvenile halls. That was sort of telling about that as well. But, in terms of writing this book, there's a couple of reasons. I mean, I tried to write it in a way that it would be accessible for someone who went through trauma themselves, because I think, again, that's most human beings. And I tried to write it in a way that informs that studying trauma can be triggering. And stir the pot, which I think we don't talk about enough in the mental health field or even in the yoga community. But I just wanted to help to bridge this world between mental health, which it felt to me, especially early in my career, very isolated from yoga, and the yoga community. And I felt like yogis were starting to understand, oh, stuff's coming up on the mat. What do we do with that? Oh, what's this thing called trauma? And therapists were starting to be like, I've been sitting in a chair my whole life and my back hurts, right? Like, how can I get some healthy movement? And I don't think our backs hurt just because we're sitting. I think there's so much that we're processing at an emotional, energetic level that if we're not doing something with it, it gets stuck. So the book was really, I think, outreach, right? I mean, why develop an online training? Why write a book? So you can pass this stuff on and it can be in someone else's hands and they can take it and run with it, right?
Right. When you say, let's go back to what you meant when you said stir the pot.
Yeah.
What are you talking about there?
So, you're familiar with enactments, right? When there's something emotional, maybe that went on in our past or is still alive within us, and it starts acting out in our lives. I've always been fascinated by that, right? And doing, when I was working with sexually exploited youth, it was something that it felt even more powerful, almost like the more powerful the trauma, the more powerful the pull to enact things, right? So whether that's to treat people in a way that's familiar to them, that's not helpful, or to avoid things, or right, there's a lot of ways that enactments can play out. And what I found was in teaching these workshops on yoga for trauma, for a long time I go around yoga studios and conferences, like people would get really triggered in the room. And I'm lucky too, because I had some yoga teachers who developed this language and would sort of point that out too. When we were doing group work or doing a training together, like, hey, wait, how do you feel right now in your body? Oh, something's coming up. So I think, to not pay attention to that is a huge disservice and kind of keeps us stuck as those of us that are in a healing role. If we're not paying attention to really what's going on with ourselves, we can keep saying the same things or teaching the same posture or whatever, but are we really integrating? Are we really healing? So I feel like it's this trigger warning. Once we start talking about trauma, like Trauma Therapist podcast, people go and listen to your podcast, like their brain's going to go, oh, that sounds like what happened to my sister. Oh, maybe that's why my mom acted the way she acted. Oh my God, that thing I went through was traumatic. I never even thought about it that way. I just dealt with it. I would just grin and bear it. So people can start to reflect on their experiences and how they respond.
All right, folks, just quickly, I want to thank my sponsor for this episode, Talkspace. I think it's no secret all of us are dealing with stress right now, whether it's the isolation, canceled summer plans, or economic stress. I get it. When we all have something on our minds, and it's important to talk it out. Talking helps, plain and simple. Talkspace Online Therapy is here to help you do just that. Match with a licensed therapist from the comfort of your home and get the support you need on whatever schedule works for you. Talk to your therapist 24/7 from your phone or computer and hear back daily. 1 month on Talkspace costs about the same amount as a single in-person therapy session. But with Talkspace, you can send unlimited messages to your therapist and they'll engage with you at least 5 days a week. We all need to talk sometimes, and Talkspace gives us the support we deserve at a price we can afford. Match with your perfect therapist at Talkspace.com or download the app. And use the promo code TRAUMATHERAPIST to get $100 off your first month and help support this podcast. Yes, please. That's Talkspace.com. And to save $100 on your first month, use the promo code TRAUMATHERAPIST. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's almost inherent in doing yoga. I can't see how it couldn't be a switch is going off for one. I mean, I don't know. It feels like that way to me. There's something so, it's like body trauma, yoga trauma. It's right there. So if we kind of dial in and talk more specifically about the book, what are some of the specific things that you're addressing in this book that you want? First of all, who's the book for?
Mm-hmm. So books for mental health professionals in yoga, teachers, leaders, studio owners, teacher training directors. That's kind of who I had in mind. I do know people who are in nursing and education or do massage or Reiki have, benefited from the information as well. But primarily, again, for people who are bridging that world,
Mm-hmm.
there are many more people these days who have mental health licenses and yoga, teacher training certificates of sorts. So helping to kind of bridge those worlds, the clinical and the sort of practical yoga.
Okay. And what are you hoping people to get, in a sense? What do you like when they're reading the book? What are some of the flags that are going off, hopefully for them, the lights that are going on for them, hopefully? What do you want to get across here?
So one of the primary things is that we need to focus on building health more than resolving trauma. Both are important. We can't just be like, yay, healthy, everything's wonderful, and not go into, we know this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not go into the heavier, harder, more challenging experiences and feelings. But we also, like I said, with enactments, that some people call it a trauma vortex, right? Like pulls you in. We can get in this place where everything's trauma and everything sucks and everything's awful. And so those are obviously kind of binary ways of thinking. But I think when we get into this work, we can lose footing personally. And I think this is what leads to burnout and is a huge sustainability issue. We can kind of lose the footing on what are we actually trying to create here? We're trying to create a healthy system within the yoga class, trying to create a healthy relationship between client and partner and practitioner, right? Or whoever we're working together, we're trying to create something healthy. And I think that foundation, this goes back to attachment stuff, that healthy foundation helps us go explore. Things don't go the way we wanted. We come back, we go, oh my God, that sucked. And then we move on, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we can actually process the emotions and the feelings that come up.
So like preventative in a sense, or proactive in a sense, rather than reactive.
Proactive, yeah, I would say.
Yeah.
But I would also say, like, if we're going to live in linear time, which I don't have a hard time with, but if we're thinking from this place of, okay, yoga, trauma-informed yoga wasn't really a field when I was in school, right? It is now. And where is this going, right? Where is mental health going, right? We think when we say mental health, we still, I think I said this last time, we still focus on mental illness. Oh, I have mental health issues. Oh, so are you depressed? Like our minds go straight to illness, and we don't, I think, I'm not saying no one does this, but I think we need to do this more, is just model and teach, like, well, what is mental health?
Right. What does it look like?
The bridge of resilience, which is what a lot of my graduate study was about, was prevention, the word you used, and resilience. So it's like, I think sort of the next piece is, how do we really consciously, to use kind of a yoga community word, how do we consciously pave a healthy path forward within ourselves and in our relationships, rather than waiting to get triggered or have something explode on us in order and to like always put out fires or always clean up messes.
Right.
And I think when you look at, a lot of people, I hardly ever can say all or nothing, but almost everyone I've worked with that's experienced trauma is in some state of overwhelm, feels in some state of chaos, and has a hard time, generally speaking, like sitting back and feeling calm and planning things, right? Like, so yeah, proactive versus reactive, and aware and conscious of like, what is our energy? Where are our assumptions, and where is our energy going? How can we consciously pave a way for like less? There's some trauma that's preventable, right? How can we pave a way for there to be less trauma in the yoga studio, in general?
Okay, so my response is, wow, that sounds pretty intense. I mean, you're not just talking about a yoga class. You're talking about a cultivation, really a full self-awareness, right, about what it means to be healthy and how to manage that, both when you're on the mat and when you're not. I mean, that's an all-encompassing mission, in a sense.
Yeah, and I think, through the book, I would hope that people feel like it's a trend and it's a practice. So like when you say, "Wow, that's big," it's like not to like be perfectionistic. We're going to create this utopian society where no one ever gets hurt, but can we learn to repair relational upsets? Can we learn to, address things when they're difficult rather than avoid them, which
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
part of PTSD, which has its function sometimes. But yeah, there's definitely an underlying bigger theme, along with like, here's the theory that supports yoga for trauma recovery. Here's the philosophy from yoga. Here's the practices I'd recommend. Like, I think the book's pretty practical, but underneath that is definitely like, what are we doing here, guys?
Well, I mean, I really love that, Lisa. I mean, I love that question. To me, it's really inspiring, and it's something that I've been thinking about in my own world, in a sense. But I love the way you're taking this, and not only are you kind of moving it forward in a sense, but within that, this idea of self-awareness, as with regards to mental health, rather than just, like you said, fixing things or being reactive when things are going wrong and so forth. To me, that's really it's exciting and inspiring.
And with regards to leadership, right? I mean, there's weight in leading a class or being a therapist. Like, there's gravity there. You have influence. So to take that influence seriously, and if you're enacting your childhood abuse in classes, which I've seen teachers do, um, that hurts people. And
Mm-hmm.
bottom line in mental health and medical treatment is to try to do no harm, right? Bottom line in yoga, ahimsa, nonviolence. So if we're not aware of the ways that we've been hurt or we're still hurting, we can just keep acting it out, you know, as a yoga teacher or as a therapist even, right? So it's kind of the perspective is, it's easier to be a professional and fix other people. We know this, right? Oh,
Right.
I am so professional. But it's a lot harder to flip that around and look in the mirror and go, "Ow, that hurts," and "Ooh, that was
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable," and "I don't want to think about that thing." But I do think that that's the work that helps us then be able to flip the mirror around and help other people better. But we have to be able to do both. And I think if we can't really look at ourselves and be with our own life and our own experiences, then I don't know that we're best suited to go into this type of work.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let me just remind everyone that I'm speaking with Lisa Danylchuk. The new book is Yoga for Trauma Recovery, Theory, Philosophy, and Practice. We're going to have everything listed up here, the show notes at the traumatherapistpodcast.com. So, Lisa, where can people get this book? I mean, obviously, Amazon?
It's on Amazon. It's on the
Okay.
Rutledge website as well.
Okay.
They just sent me a discount code. I'm happy.
Yes. Awesome.
Should I share that now?
Sure.
It's BSE19. The letter B, the letter S, the letter E, and the number 19, all one. It looks like the letters are capital, so I would try it that way.
BSE. Okay. BSE. That's it. Discount code. So they can use that code by going to the Rutledge site?
Rutledge, yeah.
Oh,
And I believe
okay.
Rutledge has free shipping internationally. It might be slow. I think you can kind of pay for an upgrade, but yeah, that's a nice.
Okay. Awesome. I'll link that up again. So in terms of, the people listening here are therapists of all kinds, survivors, advocates, and so forth. If they pick this book up, this idea, I'm kind of latching onto this idea because I love what, you're moving things forward and said, like, what now? Do you think these people can use, is this something that people can use like in their practice now, or? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm nodding emphatically.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think I work with a lot in my online training. I work with a lot of people who are in mental health or in yoga and are trying to make sense of that and move forward in a skillful or competent, confident way. So there's so many, clear treatment goals we can create as therapists that relate to yoga. There's a lot of, I think once you get the content that's in this book, some of the like, this is airy-fairy, or I don't know why I'm doing this, I just know it was helpful for me, goes away. And we can explain it even to funders, or like I was saying earlier in the juvenile hall I worked with, like, you can imagine how many smirks we got at the, multidisciplinary team meetings, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'd sit down and be like, oh, we're teaching yoga to these young women in juvenile hall 4 times a week. And, I roll, smirk, laugh. But when you really spell out how the theory and the philosophy connect, how the action steps that you take relate to that,
mm-hmm.
well, there's not much more conversation to have. And now, like, so gratefully, the research all supports it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
mm-hmm.
it's like we've got really sound bases in what is, maybe young, but definitely a field now. And so I want people to know that, and I want people to have that handy for themselves in thinking about who they're working with and who they're serving, and also for communicating to other people. And I know some systems are kind of slow and old school or bureaucratic, hard to come around, but again, you deliver a proposal or something with some of this information in there. It's like, what are they going to say? I don't believe in science. Well, that's another.
Right. What did work with those women? I mean, yes, there's the theory and the research, but I mean, if you were to kind of translate that or distill that.
With the young women we served, I think what worked was really just showing up and caring and being increasingly sort of mindful of how this felt for them and responsive. A lot of attachment stuff, right? Like consistency, rhythm, acceptance of however they felt. They could be like, I'm not doing this today. Okay, you can lie down on your mat, or you can sit. And they're like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Right. Yeah.
I'll tell, if we have a minute, I'll tell the story of that, sitting around those group meetings at the girls program I worked in. There was one probation officer, I'll call her Erin, and she would roll her eyes so hard whenever I was talking. Anyone in the yoga program was talking, just scoff audibly. And, I was there like 4 years. So it sort of started to taper down, and, you learn to accept it. And then like 4 years down the line, she shows up at the MDT meeting with a yoga mat. And I did the hardest double take I've probably ever done in my life. After the meeting, she walks up to me and says, Lisa, I want to apologize. And I'm like, completely stunned. I want to apologize because I was, I know I said things and I was rude and I was just threatened. She actually said, I was threatened. And I've been doing yoga and I actually really like it. It's really helping me. And I about lost my jaw because I would never in my life have expected it from this woman in particular. And I so give it to her. I give her so many props for coming back and saying something. I mean, my respect for her just went through the roof in that moment for owning it. But I had that experience in smaller ways with many other people. And then it became normal for program directors to pull me aside and say, like, where can I go to yoga? Right. So I think, again, in San Francisco, the culture is shifting. I know some people listening might live in places where it's not, doesn't feel like it's there yet, but I think it's coming.
Oh, that's exciting. I'm excited. I'm excited for you. I mean, I love what you stand for and the work you're doing. And like I said, when we first started, just your passion, not just for the work, but for the way you're doing it, and for the human beingness with which you carry yourself and do it. I love it.
Oh, thank you so much. That means a lot.
So, all right. Lisa Danylchuk, again, her book is called Yoga for Trauma Recovery, Theory, Philosophy, and Practice. We'll have this linked up at the show notes page at the traumatherapistpodcast.com, along with the discount code for the book, which is published by Routledge. I mean, congratulations again. I mean, I don't even know if I said that, but congratulations. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you so much. I literally felt when I was writing the last chapter, this coming through me. I'm done. Oh my God, I'm giving birth to this book. So I hope people enjoy my book, baby.
That's awesome. All right. Lisa, it was awesome having you back on here. Take care.
Thanks so much. much, Kyle, too.
All right. All right. Thank you so much for checking out the podcast. I really appreciate it. And if you're a new trauma therapist, if you're a student, if you're passionate about learning about trauma, if you're just starting out on your trauma-informed journey, I want to invite you to check out my membership community, Trauma Therapist 2.0. It's specifically dedicated to therapists of all kinds who are just starting out, who want to be around other people who are doing this work, who are passionate about learning and learning from seasoned professionals. Check out Trauma Therapist 2.0. That's traumatherapist2.com. Traumatherapist2.com. All right. Have a great day.